Hey everybody, Bobby Klink from Your Online Genius here. I'm coming to you quickly to talk about an issue and some questions that I've been getting a lot. It's been one of those weeks. It's been a really hectic week because we had the holiday here, but also I've been trying to catch up with a lot of things that I had been put on the back burner while I was helping people deal with and get ready for GDPR. Now, if you're an online entrepreneur, you've probably heard about GDPR. It's the General Data Protection Regulation in the European Union. It went into effect last Friday on May 25th, and it really fundamentally changes a lot of things about the way that we go about collecting information from people and using that information. And so it was a big shift, and there was a big push by me and a lot of other folks to help people get ready for the GDPR. So that was a big part of what I was doing leading up to last Friday. But I wanted to come to you because one of the things that I've been asked a ton this week, and I've seen questions asking me directly, but also in a bunch of the Facebook groups I'm in, where people are saying, okay, I missed the deadline, now what? And normally when I hear it, there seems to be a little bit of desperation in their voice. They're freaked out. They're worried. They said, I didn't even know about this. I just heard about it. What am I supposed to do? I missed the deadline. And what I'd say is that's the mark of someone who's good and conscientious. I like hearing that people are concerned, because people being concerned about whether they missed the boat and missed the deadline on the GDPR says to me that these are people who really want to actually make sure they're complying with the law. And I love that. I love seeing that people want to comply with the law. And so that is a good question. Now, what I want you to understand, though, is it's not too late. You still can comply with the GDPR. What I like to stress to people, and what I tried to stress through my training, is kind of like keep calm and comply with the GDPR. So I don't want you to feel like the GDPR police are coming after you today. They're not. I mean, there's no such thing as the GDPR police. There's regulatory agencies and supervisory authorities, but most of them have made pretty clear that their goal, especially up front, is to make sure that people are trying to comply, and they want to help people comply. They're not out to find people, to go after people, and to throw you into some kind of proverbial GDPR jail. That's not what they want to do. They want to make sure that we're complying, that we're doing what we need to do. And so with that, I hope you understand that you still have time to comply. Now, I want to be clear about something else. If you just ignore it and say, I'm not going to worry about it, I'm not going to try to comply with this thing because it's too hard, then maybe they're going to come knocking on your door at some point. But you have time. Quite honestly, when you look at the tech companies, they're still trying to figure it out. A lot of the software as a service companies that we use as online entrepreneurs, they haven't even figured it out completely. They had fixes that they had out maybe before last Friday, or maybe came out last Friday, and then they're realizing they need to tweak it. So there's going to be some adjustment period. But the important thing is to start taking steps. And there's a couple of things you need to do. Number one, you need to make sure that you have a system set up for the emails that you're collecting now. If you're collecting email addresses now, you need to make sure that you're collecting them in the right way, and that you are segmenting or doing whatever you're doing to get the necessary consents from people to continue to email them. Now, there's a couple of ways you can do that. I'm not going to spend a lot of time today in this live talking about it, because there's a lot of resources that I've put out that you can get your hands on, where I go through that stuff in depth, where you can really get a good understanding of what I'm proposing, what I'm suggesting to people. I've got a GDPR training. I did a GDPR challenge. And in my Facebook group, we are talking about it a ton. If you're interested in getting that information, really digging in here, go to the link in the post where I talk about and have a link to the Facebook group. And I'll just tell you, it was incredibly active in the lead up to last Friday. There was a lot of people sharing information. And the great thing is people were sharing information about how to do what I was teaching in a lot of different systems. Because I use Kartra, I can't really teach you how to do it in Aweber or ActiveCampaign because I don't use those systems. But other people did. And so they kind of shared ways that you could do it. So there's a lot of great information and great resources in that group where you can get the information. But the important thing that I want to stress is right now you need to be doing a few things. Number one, you need to make sure that you're treating emails that you're collecting now the right way. And so that means getting consents from the people you need to get consents from, segmenting lists, people who aren't giving you consents to be on your email list generally, you need to have a system set up to kind of get rid of them after some period of time. And for everybody else, you're going to have the right sequences and automation set up. So that's kind of issue number one. Issue number two, you need to get your privacy policy in place that needs to comply with the GDPR. Under the GDPR, we have to inform visitors of certain things. That's just a requirement that we have to do. I find it kind of strange that, among other things, we have to inform visitors of their rights under the GDPR. That's not the government's job. Evidently, it's our job as marketers to inform people of their rights. But it is what it is. So you've got to have a privacy policy that complies with the requirements and meets the other standards. So make sure you get that done. Now, the other thing and the trickier part is, what do you do about your old emails? What do you do about the email addresses that you've collected before May 25th? Now, before that deadline, I had very clear guidelines for people, which was, hey, you're going to try to get consents from the people you need to get consents from before the deadline. And from everybody else, maybe you're going to dump them from your list. Just so you know, I actually dumped something like, I think, a total of 1,300 or 1,400 people from my email list in the lead up to GDPR. So now that we're after GDPR, technically it's a violation of the GDPR for you to send an email to them to try to get their consent. Again, I don't think the GDPR police are going to come after you. But what I would tell you is the first thing you should probably be doing at this point, if you've got a list that you've been growing for a while, get rid of your cold subscribers. Just do some kind of test and find people who literally haven't engaged with you, say, in 3 months. If they haven't opened an email from you in 3 months, or maybe you want to go 4 months, whatever it is, but pick a number and say, anybody who hasn't interacted with me in that long, they probably don't want to be on my list. And so you probably want to go and figure out a way to get them off your list. Now, you might want to seek consent if you can segment. If you're not in the EU and you can segment and send emails to people who aren't in the EU, you can go ahead and do that. And by the way, Bob, I love your comment. So I've got to stop here. Bob has this comment that he says that he was saddened to see. I think the difference between the way men reacted to the GDPR and the way women reacted to the GDPR. And I saw this too. I saw a lot of people on the internet in the lead up to the GDPR who I will refer to as the bah humbug people. These were folks who said one of two things. They tended to be Americans, and they said one of two things. Either number one, they said, they can't come after me. They have no authority over me. They can't do anything to me, so I'm not going to do anything about the GDPR. And the other people were the people who said, I'm just going to block all traffic from Europe. Nobody from Europe is going to be allowed to come onto my website. And both of these people were coming from a perspective of, this is impossible. There's no way I can possibly comply. And those tended to be men. Women, on the other hand, I never once heard a woman say, forget it. I'm not going to do anything. They can't come after me. I like to say that women tend to be smarter than men. And men tend to be a bit too aggressive in these things. But that's a bit of a digression. But I definitely saw it in the response to the GDPR. But Bob, you took me off of this and got me down into this little kind of tangent here. But what I do want to do is get back to the point of, what do you do with your existing list? How do you try to figure these things out? How do you try to handle people who are on your list right now if you didn't take the steps before the deadline? Well, the clearest thing to do is, for people who just aren't engaging, just get rid of them. Literally, I looked at anybody who had not opened an email in 2 months in kind of the lead up. I sent them one email. If they didn't respond, they were gone. And I did that because I had been sending a lot of email. And so if somebody hadn't opened an email from me in 2 months, that meant they'd gone something like 21 or 22 emails without reading a single email that I had. If somebody's going to go 21, 22 emails without opening, they're probably not going to open the 23rd, the 24th, or the 25th. They're not interested anymore. And that's the nature of, look, people get on email lists and don't open stuff. I'm on a bunch of email lists where I just delete them every time because I don't go through the trouble of unsubscribing. I'm trying to change that because I'm getting annoyed with how much, how many emails I'm getting. But there's a lot of people on your list, if you've been building it for a while, who don't open your email. They're not valuable to you. If they don't open your email, they literally have no value. So just cut those people. And then you're going to have to make a decision on what to do with the other people. For people who've been opening and reacting to your emails consistently, I would just send an email to them, make sure they want to stay on your list at this point. Like I said, it's probably, or not probably, it is a violation of the GDPR if you don't have the necessary consent already. But at the same time, if they're opening and interacting with your emails, they probably want to be on your list. And so, I think most people would say you can go ahead and do that. And again, the supervisory authorities have largely said they want to see progress. They want to see you moving towards compliance. So that's what my suggestion to you would be, is to take that perspective with your old emails. And with your new emails, you just have to set up the procedures. And like I said, I go through all of this in a lot of depth in my free training and in my challenge that I ran before the GDPR. The best way to get all that stuff, rather than going and signing up for 18 different email lists right now at this point, is just go to my free Facebook group, Legal Secrets for Online Entrepreneurs. There's a link in the post that's part of this live. You go there. I have that group set up as a social learning group. And so then there's units, and there's one unit that is the GDPR training. It's 3 videos, about 2 hours of training, where I walk through the law. I walk through what it means for list building. I show you how I was going to implement getting the consents. And I also walk through the privacy policy issues. So you get a lot of information and you can get your protection in place. The challenge was, it was supposed to be an 8-day challenge. Actually, it was supposed to be a 9-day challenge, but lawyers are kind of challenged at math sometimes. I intended for it to last until the day before the GDPR, but I called it an 8-day challenge, and that got me to 2 days before the GDPR. So I had a bonus session the last day, but I had that as another unit in the group. So you can go through that challenge, see the work that I was having people do, and try to adapt it and figure out how to use it now that we're past the GDPR deadline. So that's my suggestion to you. Go ahead and join the group. You'll get all the great information and you'll be able to get yourself compliant, but don't freak out. Just take steps and make some efforts to get compliant, and you will be in good shape. That's it for now. I hope you have a great weekend. Hope you have some good plans this weekend. If you ever have questions, feel free to reach out. I'm pretty active in the group, so that's usually going to be the best place to find me. That's it. Talk to you later.